Good day, traders. I hope everyone had a great week of trading. We saw lots of big moves across the market and we expect more of the same for this week. We are also very excited to be announcing RMDTRADER's first trading competition, where the winners will stand a chance to win a funded account of up to $10,000. More information and details will be released during the course of the week on our website and our Twitter account. I'm going to let the disclaimer roll and I will see you back in the charts. We start by looking at the US dollar to South African rand. Following consolidation last week, we have now broken below the diagonal support and also a range of 4-hour moving averages. It would appear that price is now making its way towards support from the monthly S1 as well as this diagonal support area, and that would be between 1462 and where our monthly S1 sits at 1453. Also, before we can expect any further bullish price action, price would initially first again need to get back above the weekly pivot. That could perhaps be an interim retest or correctional level at 1494. And then that important level would be the monthly pivot at about 1509. And if once price gets back above that level, then only then can we expect to perhaps see a retest of this upper range near the weekly R2 at 1535, and anything above that could then see price breaking out higher towards this area between 1550 and 1568. We are now moving on to the Euro USD. The low from last week just managed to tag our short target at 1.195 before seeing a correction and what appears to be a retest of this now larger head and shoulders formation. My suspicion is that the retest will occur somewhere between the weekly pivot where we are currently at, with the close on Friday at 1.205, and this 4-hour 100 SMA currently at about 1.210. This can then see price move towards the full head and shoulders target about 1.178, although I do not necessarily expect this to happen this week. And for this week, perhaps a more realistic short target would be somewhere between last week's low at 1.195 and a monthly S2 pivot at 1.188. Just having a brief look now at the economic calendar for the week. Just note that we are looking at the times from a perspective of GMT +2. For the rest of today, we have no medium or high impact events expected. On Wednesday, we have a few medium impact events, core CPI figures affecting the USD, and then Bank of England governor speaking, as well as the Federal Chair Powell speaking on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, there's unemployment claims for the USD. Looking now at the GBPUSD. After what initially appeared to be a breakdown below the 4-hour 100 SMA, price has found some support now for, I think, the fourth time from our 4-hour 200 SMA, and then bounce right back into the trading range from the previous 2 weeks. The top of the range is slightly higher at about 1.376, meaning there is still some room should price see a move slightly higher into this area. But of course, we would need to have a break of this level if we want to see bullish targets realized somewhere between maybe 1.384 and that weekly R2 at 1.387, and we can of course once again use this upper diagonal as a guideline. If the range do hold and we see price move back towards the lower part of this range at 1.361, we will see price retest once again the 4-hour 200 SMA along with this weekly S1 pivot at 1.361. So then price would either then bounce off that level, and we'll have to look at price action to see what it decides to do from there. But if it does break below this level, we can expect price to move somewhere between 1.350, which is our monthly S1, and perhaps even as low as this 1.344 level, which is also some major horizontal support. We are moving on now to the Australian dollar USD. We have an interesting scenario unfolding with price last week breaking below multiple moving averages and currently retesting a combination of both the 4-hour 100 and the 4-hour 200 SMA, and depending on how we look at this, We can also see that we are very close to this 50 daily moving average, which I have also projected on the 4-hour time frame for us over here. Currently, I would say that the important level to keep an eye for would be this area between our monthly pivot at 0.768 and this overhead diagonal where it meets up with the weekly R1 pivot at 0.771. Because price action would need to dictate whether we will either see a breakout from this diagonal targeting resistance at between 0.780 and the weekly R3 at 0.783, or whether that level will hold and we then see a price move lower, either back to this low of the range at the weekly S1 at 0.759, or of course if it breaks below that, there's some more support from the monthly S1 at 0.754 and our weekly S2 at 0.752. Moving on now to the Nasdaq 100. The bullish trend has remained intact with price once again testing the all-time highs. If price continues to trade higher, we can expect price to retest the upper diagonal near the weekly R1 at 13,900 or perhaps our monthly R2 at 14,100. Depending on where we might then see resistance holding up, a retest will either then occur from that breakout area near the all-time highs at 13,600 or weekly pivot at 13,350, which will have some additional support from our 4-hour, 50 and 100 SMAs. And then ultimately, I'd say the strongest area of support would be around 13,000 level, which is where we have our 4-hour 200 SMA as well as our weekly S1. We are moving on now to the DAX index and we're looking at it from the daily time frame. It turns out this 13,350 level was strong enough to act as support and see price head back to testing all-time highs. So despite things getting very gappy, and it wouldn't be unreasonable to expect a retest of these lower levels. However, should price continue to push higher, I'd say a probable target could be somewhere between our monthly R2 and our weekly R2 at about 14,400 to about 14,500. Of course, should price pull back, levels of support could include our monthly pivot at about 13,600, and a deeper pullback would perhaps then see that 13,350 level tested once again. And depending on where that happens, it might happen later during the week, or if there's a stronger pullback, I'd expect price to move into this lower diagonal, which is also close to the monthly S1 at 13,120. We are now having a look at gold. We are looking at it from the daily time frame as we will be having a medium to longer term outlook. Gold has now broken through a very important support level at 1,805. That is our yearly pivot level. It in the process also violated a very important diagonal trend line. So obviously this is very bearish. But if gold can muster some support from the area between our monthly S1 at 1,780 and this major horizontal area at about 1,750, it could be staging a double bottom support. That could then lead price up higher towards initially back at 1,850 level, where it will meet up with the upper diagonal again, and a break above that level could then see price move closer towards that neckline area between our monthly R1 and 1,960. And in such an event, we would have staged a successful double bottom, and a break from that neckline could then see price move all the way higher towards new all-time highs at 2,100 plus. However, if price were to break below this 1,750 level, the next levels of support would be around the monthly S2 and this level of support about 1,700, where it will be testing more diagonal support levels. And of course, as you can see, any break below this area would be real dangerous for gold. And finally, we are concluding this week's technical market overview by looking at Bitcoin. We are once again looking at it from the daily time frame. The bullish trend has remained intact with this daily 50 SMA holding up quite well. The bullish target at 40,000 700, which is also our monthly R1, has been reached, and that was a target as calculated from this double bottom that we saw over the last 2 weeks. If price breaks below the weekly pivot, I'd say it's possible that we will see a retest of this breakout area near the diagonal, as well as the weekly is1 at about 34,000 to 34,500, whereas a break above the monthly R1 at about 40,900 could potentially see price move towards the yearly R2 pivot at 46,200 to the monthly R2 at 48,500. So somewhere in between that area in the event of a bullish break. But of course, we will have to keep a close eye on that yearly R1 pivot, which coincides, of course, with our weekly pivot at 37,700. That concludes our technical market overview for the week. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you again same time next week. Until then, this is John Jacobs for RMD Trader. Trade smart and trade successful.